This is Becky Liggero here with John Lee. He is at the inciting intersection of esports and blockchain. So John, begin by telling us your background in the esports industry.
I've been involved with esports basically for the last 10 plus years. Originally started in the online poker business. Was chief strategy officer at a NASDAQ listed company called Gigamedia. And as we just found out, Gigamedia owned a poker platform in Boston called Everest Poker that I used to work at. So
That's right.
we're actually alumnus, and so that's a brilliant story to tell. And actually, when I was at Gigamedia, we were experimenting with esports. So we had an Asia division, which was the distributor for Electronic Arts as well as Blizzard games in Asia.
Yep.
So we were the distributor for Diablo 3, StarCraft, StarCraft 2, NBA Street Basketball from EA, and then we were kind of experimenting with esports. Back then we just called it tournament gaming, but that kind of made me one of the early guys in esports. And so when I go to all these esports events around the world, it's like, oh, you're here. It's like all the old guys that are just kind of around me. So.
Super cool. And my background, as we just discussed, is the online gambling industry with Everest, and I know a lot about esports as well. And we speak quite a bit about blockchain and the intersection of blockchain and online gambling, but in particular with esports. Tell me where you see this intersection.
I think it makes a lot of sense. You think about the typical esports enthusiast. There's someone that has a really high-end PC at home, a CPU, memory, video card, and whatnot. So they're naturally very fluent when it comes to kind of digital technologies, virtual item economies, and whatnot. Many esports gamers actually mine at home. So it's like a lot of people in the esports industry that I know were very early adopters in cryptocurrencies. And they, obviously can't mine Bitcoin at home, but you can mine Ethereum.
Yeah.
So a lot of people in my network were mining Ethereum from the very early days, as well as invested in the ICO.
Excellent. Tell me how esports companies are or have been using ICOs in order to make some money.
So interestingly, I'm an advisor for the first ever esports ICO. It's a company out of Boston called firstblood.io, and they raised 500,000 Ethereum in 90 seconds in September of 2016. And that was kind of like my introduction to the whole space. Yeah. And since then, I've also advised a number of other ICOs that are in esports space. Another one is called Dream Team. They're like the LinkedIn social network of esports, based in LA, well as a couple other ones in Asia.
So there's some people that think that ICOs are dead and are scams and all this. Tell me your opinion on that.
I would say I would separate out ICO and blockchain. So I think I look at it from the dot-com days. If you look at the 1990s, the companies that embraced the internet in the early days were all startups. But then post-2000, post-2001, who came in? There's a lot of the large corporates, the large conglomerates that kind of came in and embraced the power of the internet. Now you see the same thing happening in blockchain. Big companies like McKinsey are coming out with McKinsey quarterly articles about the power of blockchain. Deloitte, PwC have dedicated blockchain advisory groups. Why? Because their corporate clients are looking at ways of getting into blockchain. Not to mention all the big names that are already jumping into the space that we all know about, we don't have to talk about. But I think what's going to happen is more and more of the traditional companies that have been on the sidelines kind of watching blockchain, watching the space, are saying, how can we get into it now?
Interesting, and there are quite a few blockchains out there, and we know that CoinGeek.com is the #1 news source for Bitcoin SV. Tell me where you feel like BSV fits into this ecosystem of all the blockchains.
Yeah, I think I'm an old timer, and I worked in venture capital before I was in the gaming and esports world.
Yeah.
So I see kind of the parallels with on the internet age. I see a lot of parallels, particularly with Linux. So when Linux first came out, there were a lot of people saying okay, we're going to be the Linux platform. And nowadays it's kind of narrowed down to a few.
Yeah.
And I think blockchain is going to have kind of the same pathway. And just as Jimmy was speaking earlier, I think that there's no need for 1,000 chains.
Yeah.
So I think that what I understand about BSV is they're one of the strongest platforms out there right now, and it's going to be last man standing. So they're definitely going to be one of them.
Outstanding, John. I've really enjoyed our time together today. Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Thank you.